Well, we'll call the meeting to order. First item of a quorum is present. The first item of business is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any comments or requests for additions or clarifications of the agenda? Dean, do we need to put that item that you raised? We should probably put an item under the treasurer's report for approval of signatories.
Yes.
So we'll consider that as part of the treasurer's report.
Like I said in my email to you, this was not brought by the full finance committee. So I would make the motion, someone would have to
Yeah.
second, then I can explain what it's all about. It's
but for now, we're just noting that we're gonna add that to the agenda under your report.
Yep.
Okay. Any other?
While we're talking about the agenda,
Yeah.
We could add Dean to it as in his new role as treasurer. I mean,
well, treasurer's report is on the agenda.
I mean, at the top where it says it's a nitpicky bit, but he should be, either above or below me as in the officer.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we'll reformat that for next month.
Yeah, it's
Thank
like a not
you
like
for catching that. We'll format that for next month. Yeah, I don't think we need to worry. If in preparing the minutes you want to include that, that's fine. But I don't, Okay. Anything else agenda wise? Hearing not, we will move on. Next item is, and Susan has entered. So next item is the approval of the September minutes. Anybody have any questions, comments, or clarifications on that? Seeing none, they'll stand as approved, as submitted. We have no communications from the public. I don't think I have any, I don't think I have anything to say other than the fact that I'm going to be moderating a book festival appearance on Friday afternoon from one of the people that I had on BookBeat last year, of an old friend of Dean's. So hopefully some people may be able to get out to that. Helen Schiller. So that should be fun. That's all I had. Executive committee did not meet to take any action. Brings us down to the treasurer's report. So Dean, floor is yours.
Okay. Well, there were problems in setting up a meeting, which exposed something that we should consider as a finance committee going forward, is that having a finance committee meeting during the pledge drives sometimes can be problematic for getting staff together, stuff like that. So we had to cancel. I went to the station several times, met with Mary Joy, and got familiar with the process of what the treasurer is supposed to do. There are things that we need to catch up on before the end of the year, which I've put into my schedule. It has to do with reviewing some checks and monthly things that doesn't take long. But so I have I'm setting up a schedule where I can get all that done before the end of the year. And it is an audit requirement, so I'll take care of all that and report back to you next month, my progress. All the statements were put on the Google Drive. You can look at them. As you know, they're pretty much a carryover month to month. And last month we had a longer discussion about our cash flows and negative going, and we wanted to see what happened this month with the pledge, and then things bounce back up. What we saw from the reports Susan, I think I just was able to briefly give your email just a little while ago, the once over. So we still didn't make the full goal, but we're closer than we were from our initial reports. So and then the report that we did read, there was meetings around strategies to consider how to increase donors and all that stuff, and all those things are worthy of discussion and possibly implementing. We'll hear back from the staff once they decide what to do on that. The thing that I would like to mention, though, is that when I heard of the shortfall, it was at 1.25% short. That should be no reason to panic. It should be a reason of concern and questioning and looking into what were some of the possible reasons for coming up short this time around, when we've been able to match and in most cases overmatch the goals that we set over the previous pledge drives. So we don't know what those are, and I'm not going to speculate. So we'll find out. We'll look into that and try some things to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, one of the things that is a board fiduciary responsibility that we all take on when we get on the board is that in most nonprofit boards, and many of us have been on a lot, there's an expectation that we also contribute to raising money. Some of us go on air and do pledge drive. I'm a little tied up, and I don't get a chance to do that as much as I'd like to. I've done it in the past. But what I did do is today I donated my own. I'm a regular monthly donor, but I put in $90, and I'm getting a cool hat. A lot of people would say the more of this I cover up, the better people will feel. So they don't have to look at all this stuff. But anyway, I'll get a cool hat for $90. And I also was able to talk to two friends who have committed to send something at the end of the year pledges that we send out, or a donor requests. So those are examples of what board members can do. That when we hear something like this, we should kick in our fiduciary responsibility hat that I just got, and perhaps reach out to friends we know, or maybe kick in a little of our own, just so that we can help fill that gap. So that's one thing I would say in response to the pledge drive effort, which going back to how I started this, is that I'm not certain of this. I'd like to hear from other people at our next finance committee meeting. We'll discuss this, of whether or not we should just not have a finance committee meeting if it coincides with the time of a pledge drive. It gets pretty difficult for staff to take on anything else, and then the treasurer would do what they have to do every month, and then unless something extraordinary happens that needs to be reported, then the treasurer would make that report, which I usually doubt. The other thing is what we could do then is just cancel that meeting. I would give her a brief report, and then the next finance committee, we would consolidate 2 months of reporting. Now, that does not preclude that everyone would have financial statements available every month. Those are always there, and they're done. And the other thing that was in discussion that Mary Joy was able to give the first version of is what's being called either a screenshot or essentially a financial dashboard that can be given to the board in a very easy to understand format that you will all see and clearly see. It basically says, here's what we got coming in, and here's what went out, and here's our balance statements. It's all on, like a 2-paragraph thing, and then we could include a little narrative underneath that. Every board member, even if you have never seen a financial statement, will easily be able to read that and say, okay, I get it. Then if you want to, the finance committee can really go over the financial statement forms, which are, there's 8 or 9 of them, and they're a little bit more complicated. You got to have a little more experience. You got to have someone sit there and explain it to you, and then you do it for a couple of years, and then you say, okay, I understand these now. They're hard for a novice board member to come on who's never done this before. So but the developing that dashboard or the screenshot, basically they're called dashboards. That's what the official term is, and then everyone will be able to get that easier. So we're going to be developing that before within the next couple of months, and If you haven't seen the one already, we're gonna, by next month, we'll shoot one out there. That essentially is my report. The one thing that we wanted to do is clean up our staff board check signers. That has to be done when I'm a new treasurer, and Dave no longer is the president. He needs to be removed. Now we don't have to. So we're gonna. I'm gonna make a motion and ask that the board second and vote on the new staff check signers. Excuse me, and that is basically board president and treasurer, Stuart, and I. And staff include Adrian, Charlie, Sybil, Aaron, and Tom. And officially, so that's what we'll have to vote on today. And then there's we'll have to go to banks and fill out some paperwork and get.
Is there a second to that? Does someone want to second that motion, Dean's
I
motion?
second that motion.
Okay.
Can we clarify the language for the record?
Yes, I will. Stu, can you?
It's to authorize the president, the treasurer, and the staff members so named as signatories for all financial instruments.
And I'll read put the full names in: Adrian Rainey, Charlie Pittman, Sybil Augustine, Aaron Schultz, Tom Jones, and it's THOM.
Okay.
And my name is Stuart's.
Jeff, you're on mute.
Aaron has 2 A's, right?
Yes.
Aaron, Tom, and Doug, right?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Doug. You're in on this too. I forgot. Are
No,
you?
no, absolutely not. Fundraisers
Okay.
are not allowed to be check signers.
Yeah. Okay. The names
And I
I read
are
never
not
mind.
allowed to be check signers.
Yeah, the
Okay.
names I read, those are the ones. Never mind.
Aaron,
Sybil, Charlie, Adrian, Aaron, Tom.
Stu and me.
there we go. Okay.
Okay. Laura, did you have a point on this, or it looked like Jeff was having a question about this particular point?
Why don't you let Jeff go first?
Okay, Jeff, if you have a question about this?
No, I'm once again revealing my newbiness here, but I'm stunned that 4 staff people in such a small staff have check signing privileges. And this is not to say that I don't trust all 4 of them. But I've never worked at a place where 2/3 roughly of the staff could sign checks ever.
Doug, you want to respond?
Yeah,
to
help
that?
you out on. I
Yeah,
had
there's several,
wondered
there's
about
several
that.
times
Hang on,
a day
Dean.
that
I think Doug has more experience on it. Let Doug respond.
there's any expenditure over $300 needs 2 signers. The reason that there is 5 check signers out of the 7 is because we all work different hours, and Mary Joy on her limited hours needs to be able to get checks signed to send out for payables, and can't wait until she gets 2 different signatures from just 2 people. If someone's on vacation, if 2 people are on vacation and the other 2 are working different hours, it becomes very difficult. And in that check signing, though, we don't sign for our own stuff. We all authorize each other's purchases or each other's needs. Mary Joy gets other staff that are not involved in the transaction to be the check signers for the transaction. And that's the checks and balances that the auditors are looking for.
Okay, good. Thanks
I
for the
hope that helps.
explanation, Doug. That's helpful. Thank you.
Dean, did you have a point on this before we go to Laura? Or
Just that there's a convenience factor here. I had a similar situation where I had very few people writing. I had to physically often get in a car, take a check across town to find someone. So there's a time factor here. And I think when I saw that too, I was wondering, boy, it seems like a lot, but there's that's well, the way Doug described it answers the problem. And I'm sure it's set up this way because of past problems like this.
Laura, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to what Doug had stated. In pre-COVID days, I recall that there were many fewer check signers. I believe only 2, and Well, that's my recollection, and certainly not 5.
4.
Okay.
You're acting 6 because there were 4 staff members plus the treasurer and president. It has always been in the 10 years that I've worked here. It has always been every staff member that's not responsible for fundraising is a check signer, a full-time staff member.
I remember this being a concern of Terry O'Laughlin when he was treasurer too. So I think we at that time lowered the number. I'm not going to argue the point. It's just that that was my recollection. It would be helpful if the hours were more consistent for the staff. You know, we used to have 9 to 5 kind of hours. And, you know, now that we're past the COVID, you know, I think we might be able to reestablish some of that. But what I wanted to ask, first of all, I do remember the dashboard being raised, the question of a dashboard. I would really like to see that. About 5 years ago, people were talking about dashboards, so I'd like to see that implemented. But I wanted to the reason I originally raised my hand was, what is the status right now, or as close to this moment as you can let us know, of the last pledge drive? How close did we come? What is the shortfall? I'm a little unprepared. I wasn't planning on being at this meeting, so I haven't read the whole financial statement, but can you just tell me, Dean?
Well,
Yeah.
we've got Susan is on the call, and I think she is prepared to discuss that. And I think that would be appropriate at this time, because it does follow naturally.
Actually, in discussion for.
Hey, hold on. Could we finish the vote first?
Yeah, right. We've got it. We've got a motion on the table. Doug, were you seeking recognition about the motion or something else? I'll take that as a something else.
Unmute.
Okay.
It was to respond to Laura, and why does it keep doing that? I don't know why it keeps doing that. But I'll withdraw at this time because I can't remember what it was.
Okay, there's a motion on the table for Adrian, Shali, Sybil, Tom, and
Aaron,
the treasurer and the president to be the signatories. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Okay, that is agreed to. Now then, we do have Susan on the call, and some of you may not have seen her report, and I think it is a vital, it's going to be the most important thing I think we can deal with tonight. So I'd like to recognize Susan at this time to discuss the pledge drive and her thoughts on it.
Okay, so the first thing is that the budget for the pledge drive was $80,000. That's the number that I generated last year as part of the budgeting process for the drive. We there's a 2-week on-air component to the fall pledge drive. So for 2 weeks, the drive is on air and online. There is a week after the on-air portion of the pledge drive ends that we go online only. And those numbers of what we receive online in the 3rd week of the drive are always included in the whole total. That's for the winter as well. In the summer, we only have 1 week. So anytime there's a 2-week drive, there's a week afterwards that's called the online only portion. So the numbers break down like this, and these aren't final numbers. We'll still get checks in that will say, you know, this is for the pledge drive that were never pledged for, but we still get the check and we honor the, you know, that's in just the next week or so, where we honor the wishes of the donor and apply them to the drive. We know those will come in, they always do. So right now, for the first 2 weeks when we were on air, the total was $67,570 against an $80,000 goal. So you can see that that's about $12,500 short of 80. Now, in this, generally it's just a week after the drive, but I've been so sick that I haven't been able to get the constant contact and the prod that usually goes out, that results most usually in about $10,000 additional dollars that goes out during that week that we're online only. So it is through Thursday this time, tomorrow by noon. But right now we've received an additional $5,290 in pledges or donations. That puts us at, through yesterday, at 72,860, which is 91% of our goal. The better, so I'll talk briefly about this. I have cohorts that are fundraisers at 6 different stations across the United States that are my go-tos. After every pledge drive, I check in with them to see how their fall pledge drives went. Because if we've done well, I still want to, did everyone do well? So I'm hoping at some point NFCB, the National Federation of Community Broadcasters, actually benchmarks these drives so we get all the information from all of the community radio stations. But right now, the 6 cohorts, 5 out of the 6 had pretty shitty fall pledge drives. The exception was Alaska, who relies on oil money. And now that oil was up enough, they had a terrific year so far because the North Slope was back in business extracting oil. So Alaska is booming. If anyone's interested, they're looking for radio people too for the Sitka station. But the other 5 had shittier, I don't know, it shouldn't make me feel better, but shittier than we did end up. And the common theory among the Philanthropy Today and all the other people that are writing articles about that, we really should have had a shitty winter and summer drive according to how other places are doing. This is not a great year. So I'm really thrilled that it took this long for it to hit. But the main, people think it's a couple of things, that it has to do with the inflation. Just people aren't comfortable thinking that they're not going to have to pay more money. The broadcast is that people are not that we're going to be down on spending for this final quarter. People aren't going to be spending as much. And there's the stuff going on in the Senate, the stuff going on worldwide. I don't know, mostly gas prices, which I'm glad to see coming down because that's a good sign for our end of year fundraising. That's a big marker in people's heads. When gas goes up close to $4, people really limit their spending. So I think this is not what is wrong with our drive, but what is wrong with how people feel about the economy and what that means for donations. I don't know if you guys have stopped, any of you are donating less than usual. If you're spending money on campaigns, that is taking out of, political campaigns. So I'll just, I also have some news about the monthly donations, but does anyone have any questions specifically on just how we did in single donations and what that means?
Thank you, Susan. I'll just add, I was going to put it in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud. I'm not overly concerned about what I see as an outlier. I think we have to put this in context of, the past few pledge drives and moving forward. I look at trends. Thanks, Susan.
Okay, then I'm just going to briefly say there's much better news in the monthly donor area, where we saw, let me take a look real quick.
94 new or increasing.
That resulted in 4,000 more a year in monthly donations. We're really, really getting close to the 200,000. So you will see for next fall, we will go from 14 days to 10 days. I still need to get 2 weekends in there to become close to meeting our numbers. But the good news is that by going down to 10 days, I can avoid the Jewish high holy days much easier. So I'm really happy about that. That has kind of been a sore spot for me, and I'm sure for other people, that we expect people to work on days that are the equivalent of a Christian Christmas. And
Oh, it's much more serious than Christmas.
right, I know. I'm trying to put it in the context that but it's much more serious than that. It is you could still go in and work on Christmas and you're not violating your religion. That's a huge difference. But anyway, we're going to go down to 10 days next fall, and I couldn't be happier. We also had, if you didn't see it, we had 82 brand new, spanking new donors who have never given to us before, including 4 that came in after the pledge drive, just from people talking on the air and saying we didn't meet our goal. We got 4 people who have never given to WORT before. And I do want to take a look. Right now, I'm probably going to be asking the board to, at the next meeting, to give me the money. Shali has access to White Pages Premium, and you can find out the age of people and a lot of other information using that, but it's limited to only $200 a month. I found another one that has 500 within a year, and the volunteers who are willing to do this, within a year, we can have the age of everyone in our donor database and keep up with all of the new people. So,
are you suggesting that you don't need the authorization to ask the question about age?
No, I thought that at the last meeting you guys had authorized that, but if not,
okay.
If not, it's in my notes for the.
We did.
Okay.
I think, Susan, you just wanted to let us know how you were going to do it. You were going to do a sampling, right?
No, yeah, we're doing a sampling. The volunteers are all ready to do that, and I'm going to give that to them this month, and you'll have it for next month. You'll have the sampling. So it's 10% of all of our donors and 20% of our new donors for the last year. But I would like to have firm numbers in there for everyone's birthday, get them all in there through volunteer work, and keep up with it. We can go down to $200 a month and have our own plan. That's $19 a month if we do that. And then we will always know the age of our donors. We can just run a quick report, and the age of our new donors at any time by doing that. So I'm going to come back to you next month with the figures for that, to do that.
On your point about post pledge drive donations, I've been very pleased how often I've heard programmers make that point and ask, and that's good. I've been impressed by that and happy about that.
I will tell you, Stu, even though I'm stuck at home, I'm listening to WORT all the time. Every time one of them gets a donation and I hear them ask, and then I see the donation on my email, I forward it to them and say,
oh, very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And as to birthdays, I turned 70 on November 29th. There will be a party at the Old Sugar Distillery from 5 to 9, pizza, cake, and an open bar for an hour. So you'll all be getting an invitation on that, but I just wanted to, so yeah.
I just want to thank, Stu, thank you for all that you did during the drive. I understand that not everyone that is on the board has the money to contribute to donations, and it's not what I really expect from our board. Is we're not a fundraising board in the sense that most of the money comes, a lot of money comes. What is much more helpful to me, especially during pledge drives, is if you guys are willing, and I think Stu can attest because at one time he took it, you don't always know what to say just because you're on the board. Fundraising isn't just having board knowledge, it's having some training on how to talk on the air in a way that gives you money, and it's often counterintuitive. And I would love to do a class with board members about how to, what are the best fundraising tips for on air. I think, Stu, you've become really good at it.
And I think board members make good pledge wrappers, even though we don't use that term anymore, because I think people like hearing from the people who like hearing from us. And
Yes.
like knowing that we are personally vested in what we're doing and that
I
we
think it
can
would
speak-
carry a lot of weight. I agree.
and,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would love to have board members as pledge rappers. Also, people like to hear different voices. A lot of the DJs, myself included, have a small number of people who are ready, willing, and able to rap for us. But, you know, over the years, people hear from the same people. And so hearing new voices absolutely makes a difference.
Laura?
I used to participate in pledge rapping. I'm sorry, wrong terminology, but I would be on the air.
It's between us. I just don't want it on the air, Laura, but we know it.
But see, that's one of the reasons why I've backed off, is because I'm kind of not in the flow of it these days. And I don't have any friends who are on the air who I think want me to rap with them. Anyways, I'm wondering, you used to conduct training sessions before pledge drives. Is that something you're going to go back to?
No one shows up. I scheduled two. This was the first drive where I didn't even schedule them, because the last drive I had two different Zoom meetings scheduled and no one showed up.
If we wanted to get paired up with somebody, you know, to work on somebody's show, should we approach you?
Yes, I have a whole length of things to send, and we have audio of what we consider a lot of good pledge rapping that we send out. That's 15 minutes long. That has, you know, Bad Sister Heidi being off the wall, and, you know,
I'm saying shows that need help.
No, now it's changed. I don't get the pledge rappers. Shali is responsible for lining up the pledge rappers for the news and talk shows, and Sybil is responsible for lining up people for the music shows. And both of them have keep a list of people that have volunteered, so they can reach out. Some shows, you know, want to use the same person every time.
Yep.
They have a partner they feel comfortable with, and then some shows ask, can you find someone? So Laura, if you want to be on, like,
I used to help Peaches.
Yeah.
So that was my
I remember.
slot.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I make a suggestion on this point, which is that I don't care who the message comes from. It could be Sybil and Shali together. It could be you, Susan. If we have board members who actually want to, as Laura said she does, hopefully there are others, to pledge rap, but they don't have a connection with a host, or, you know, or feel uncomfortable, you know, knocking on my door or anybody else's, you know what I'm saying, email to say, hey, I'd like to pledge rap for you. I think it'd be great if staff emailed, or not emailed, you know, whatever you use, the listserv, out to all the hosts before pledge drive, saying, we as a station really want board members to pledge rap. The following board members have agreed to pledge rap, and maybe if they have schedules, what times they're available or whatever. I encourage you as hosts to reach out to them and get them on your show. And I would be stunned if we could not, you know, if whether it's one of you or all of you, I'd be stunned if hosts, I would absolutely take you. And you can have more than one pledge rapper. So it wouldn't even be a question of whether or not we can. It's just a matter of facilitating it.
Yeah, good idea. Susan, can you convey that to Shali and Sybil?
Yes, but I do strongly encourage people then to come to a pledge rapping class, even if they feel like, Jeff, you're accepted, and Stu, you would be accepted. But anyone else, just to get up to date of what we're doing, because I don't think the rest of you have done it in a while. And
Yeah.
we have we've learned, I've learned, and we've changed some things. So I will make sure to schedule a board one well in advance, maybe 3 weeks before the drive starts. And then everyone that's still interested after going through the class, yes, I will put them on there. And I do want to say that I think more than one pledge rapper is perfectly fine. Shows that have more, La Junta added like 5 people and turned it into a party. And they raised like over $1,000, which is more than twice what they usually raise. So no problem with having more than one pledge rapper.
Listeners like to hear that we're having fun.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else on that aspect of Susan's report, since we've got her here and she may want to bug out for the dugout as soon as she can we move down to the rest of her report and take up the WORT gift acceptance policy? This is
my question is, are we done with the treasurer's report? Because if we
okay. Are we done with it? Doug, Dean, did you have no, you're nuts. That's a good point, Jeff. I'm sorry, go on.
I have a request.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel this is, I don't know what, my third, fourth meeting, that I am not meeting my fiduciary duty, not because I'm not pledge wrapping or donating or whatever, but because I need financial information that I don't feel like I have. And there's a few reasons I don't have it. Number one, I need to be directed to where they are on the drive. Okay, I can't just be told they're on the drive. Send me a link when they're updated, please. And number two, the links, I was glad to see there were links in the agenda. They don't work. That's not your fault, anybody. They're just not working. That is a reason, however, in case of technology, to also email them out before the meeting, just like we do with all the other reports. Last but not least, I yearn for the treasurer's report of here's what's going well, here's where we're simply just on track, here's what we have problems. And that, I think, is the dashboard you're talking about, Dean, because that's going to tell us kind of the big picture, what there are issues or not. And the sooner the better on that. I've been on lots of boards where that's exactly what we have access to all the financials, but we, rely on the treasurer to say, hopefully, with the dashboard type thing, this is the big picture, this is what you have to worry about, or this is what you don't have to worry about.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond quickly because I remembered what I wanted to say before, and it's actually now responding to this. Concern from Jeff is that Mary Joy actually has begun the workings of a dashboard and has sent it to the finance committee. And it is exactly what we're looking for. It has easy to read graphs and charts of various aspects of our financial position. And with, I think, minimal tweaking, once we get together as a finance committee, I think it's going to be ready sooner than we thought. Simply because
why don't I just forward that
directly from QuickBooks. So it's really fantastic what she's come up with.
Yeah, that's why I had my hand raised too. The snapshot is so powerful, and I don't know if it's Dean that we need to ask or Stu, or if it's just appropriate to share with everyone, but I think it's the answer to this question. I was so heartened to see it myself. The snapshot's very powerful.
There's no reason for me to not immediately forward it to the rest of the board.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very cool. It's in color, it's graphs, it's pie charts, it's graphs, it's like.
Well, really, and as we finalize it, I think it's going to help to have the reaction of board members who are not on the finance committee to what's there now. Yeah, because then you can help us tweak it to get it something that's really useful for every single board member.
Now, there is some degree of confidence. I see that there's a category for customers who owe money. There's some level of.
Is there a way you could blot that one out for right now? Because I mean,
well, that's why
that's a little. I don't know that we need to know
let's
that.
Hold off. Yeah, let's just hold off on that.
So you might want to suggest to Mary Joy that maybe that should be kept more confidential. That's
some of the tweaking that I was talking about.
That is unpaid pledges, and because she entered the
no, that's not the only thing.
Well, don't just chime in, Stu. Pick people to talk.
Yeah. Dean, you had your hand raised.
Yeah. Mary Jo and I talked about that on our meeting we had on Monday. Today is Wednesday. She said, yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time. I can easily pull this up and shoot it to you today. I said, great, do it. So this is her first shot. If you're writing in something, this is your first draft. You don't turn your first draft in. Now, this is really good. It's a great start. There should be a narrative accompanying it, a very short one, 2 or 3 sentences. And Jeff's point of boiling it down to what are we doing good, where are we holding our own, and where are we having problems? 3 simple little things that the dashboard, in this sense, will be able to address easily and clearly. So by the next board meeting, the finance committee will meet ahead of it. And then something we can easily do to answer Jeff's other issue is that we can put those financial statements in an email and pass them around like we do to the entire board. And that will get done before the end of the week.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, that's something it just should be automatic. And then they'll also be on the Google Drive if you kind of know where to get to them. So we'll hit it from both perspectives, and so they're always easily accessed. And then the dashboard will, within the next 2 months, be up and running, and it'll be enhanced and tweaked. And what you want to get is people looking at it to have a good understanding of it right away. And then anyone who wants more detail can volunteer to be on the finance committee and go through that. And then what's not the finance committee is what we just went through with Susan, how we raise money and what we do with it. That's a essential part of WRT, but it's not the guts of what the finance committee does. You got to go through those statements. That's what that does. So make sure we separate these 2 things, because we often, and the finance committee, get off into conversations about raising money. They are separate, but clearly linked. So the finance committee needs to be more defined, and the dashboard will help. Getting access to the statements will help. And then we're done with that. And then we can go on to the other aspect of finances, which is how we raise money and pay for what we do. So I think I got it. And by the next meeting, everyone will have seen the first renewed dashboard or snapshot, whatever you want to call them. I'm used to calling them dashboards, whatever. Okay. So they'll be up and it'll be there, and you'll all see them before the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to request, was like a report on the status of the dashboard in your next treasurer's report, Dean. So thanks for offering that. And I'd also like to suggest, you don't have to put the live document up or give us a link to the live document. If you were to just do a screenshot and then redact whatever you don't want us to see, that would be great too.
And if people have thoughts on the dashboard, they can send a note to Dean and or Mary Joy, probably both of them, if they have thoughts about it. Susan, did you
to the whole board so everyone can see the discussion? And then the finance committee will bring it down.
Fine. Susan, did you have something to add?
I've been a part of creating dashboards for a couple of nonprofits. The thing that I see missing in our current one, but we'll get to work on it, I'm part of the finance committee, is that there's always usually something that makes it very easy for board members, which is the range of what that number should be.
Okay.
So
convey that. Yeah.
Details we'll do in the finance committee.
We're not going to do committee work on the floor anymore.
Okay.
But thank you. Did you have anything else in your report? Oh yeah, with the gift. Okay, are we done now with Dean's treasurer's report?
I don't have anything else.
Everyone made all their points about that, because I mean, it is the most important stuff that we're responsible for. So then moving on to, since we've got Susan here, to the gift acceptance policy, which the bylaws committee paid some serious attention to. We made some amendments. Susan participated in that meeting, so we have agreement among Susan and all of us on the bylaws committee. Does anybody have Susan, anything you want to say about it, or just see if there are any questions about it?
Just see if there's any questions. I do want to mention that the fundraising group that has all professional fundraisers on it also vetted it, spent over a month individually breaking down that stuff. So just want to
Yeah,
mention
yeah,
that.
my impression was that happened first, and then we got it when
Yes.
you were done with it. Yeah. But okay, so it's been seen by professionals and by WORT staff. And I think it's pretty good. And Susan's been wanting this for some time now. So does anybody have any questions about it?
I do want to, I'm sorry, just
Yep.
first I want to make clear, this is directed toward estate planners and professionals who are going to be looking for it specifically under the name gift acceptance policy. That's what it's called across the board at most places. And it'll be in a place where they would expect to find it. The actual pages for donors who are looking for things, we're working on new website pages that cover these different categories and explain it in much simpler terms. So don't look at this as for donors to understand. You know, they might, if they're a high level donor and they've done some of these different things, but that isn't its purpose. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Any questions about the gift acceptance policy? If not, it has been recommended by policies and bylaws, so it's before us. Any discussion on the matter? Anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Susan, you have a unanimous gift acceptance policy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And briefly, anything you want to say about the fundraising meeting notes? Or anybody
No,
have any
I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Really do apologize that I wasn't able to get a much better report out.
We understand you've had some health issues and we hope you're feeling better.
I will.
Okay, you will. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then thank you for that. Then moving on to the rest of the staff reports. There's nobody here to ask any questions other than Doug. Does that first of all, anything, Doug, you want to say about your report?
Just that we have 2 upcoming events in the next couple of weeks. There's a party at Aftershock on the 26th. It's the arcade that's in with Parched Eagle on East Washington Avenue. And then our Bowl-O-Rama is on the 5th of November at Dream Lanes at 3 p.m. And then for Jeff and other people who spin vinyl, there's our Record Riot at High Noon Saloon on Sunday the 12th, 11 a.m. So if anybody's interested in getting some new vinyl.
Sunday,
That's it for
November
me.
12th? November
That's
12th?
November 12th at high noon at 11 a.m. Sunday the 12th.
Okay, theoretically, I'm going to be walking a half marathon, but we'll see. Okay, anybody have any questions on Doug on his report? Now, let me ask you, okay, Doug, I saw on the dashboard that there were apparently some, when I see Orange Tree, I assume that is that something that's a payment that's coming out of your underwriting, or a payment that's coming out of something that Susan's doing?
No, that's underwriting, and it's
Okay.
because we have a monthly contract, so we parse it out over the 12 months.
Okay.
That's just a representation of the remaining months of the contract.
Ah, okay.
That's why things like that should be pulled out, because
Okay.
it's just too much detail
Okay.
on the
Okay.
board
Okay.
level.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's way too confusing to find.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's just stuff you guys don't need to know, because it's really Mary Joy and me that have to deal with the underwriting payments. You know, if she sees someone's lapsed, she lets me know, I contact them, and then we get them back on track.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments on Doug's report? Seeing none, without objection, we'll accept it as offered. We do have an action item on Tom's report, and then also something I want to talk about on Sybil's report, but let's go to Tom's report. For those of you who have not filled out your biennial ownership report, that's a regulatory responsibility that Doug is waving his finger at us on. So if you do not have a firm memory of having signed this report, contact Doug or contact Tom. Contact Tom and say, I'll be in on X day to sign this report, because it's necessary and it's not that hard. So hopefully people will take care of that.
Should I just ask, do the two people know who they are? Because they might be people who are not in this meeting, because all of 11 of us are not here.
Is it me?
I don't know who the two people are.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll be there.
Well, have Tom send an email to the two people who have not signed. This is not an efficient way to
So
communicate.
noted. So noted in my report that I will give to staff at the end of this meeting.
I also suggest that when Tom does that he copies Stuart. This is a board responsibility. So
Okay.
Stuart should know exactly who isn't, if he needs to call them or whatever. I don't think it's just Tom's responsibility.
I'm going to put even money on Rebecca being one of the non-signatory, or not people who have not responded. I think that's a safe bet.
I have a strong suspicion Kai is the other.
I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so but if Tom sends those emails, hopefully that will spur them to action. And we did get an email from Kai apologizing he was double booked. Doug, to the best of your knowledge, are we done with the financial damage from A over AIOP? Have we maxed out on that, or are we still going to be seeing some unanticipated higher than budgeted expenses?
I think Laura might be able to speak to that better than I could as a member of the engineering committee.
Yeah, I talk to Tom quite frequently about stuff like this. I think we're at the end. I mean, there may be some incidental expenses, but Tom, yes, I would say we are done.
Okay.
We have all the equipment we need, and we're just ready to install the equipment in the studios, and that takes a lot of logistical maneuvering. But as far as purchases, we're done.
Okay, then what we have to do is just pray for the continued health of the elevator.
That's one of the things.
Oh, actually, I can report on the elevator. We just had our inspection, which went great. We also had our fire inspection of the elevator, so we're good for another year or whatever.
Excellent.
So it is actually 73 years old. So when we celebrate our 50th birthday, the elevator will be celebrating its 75th.
That's a demi-sesquicentennial.
Yeah, so there's no expected big money expenditures on the elevator planned for next year.
If I might
So-
just mention that Tom seems to have found an elevator whisperer, somebody who knows, who's intimately knowledgeable about this particular elevator. He was having a devil of a time, so I tip my hat to him for locating this person.
And we can suggest to the Golden Jubilee Party Planning Committee that we also throw in a demi-sesquicentennial birthday of the elevators. Because maybe a little focused fundraising to keep the elevator happy kind of thing. The elevator is 75. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have anything else on technology, facilities, or engineering?
Oh, I checked with I was talking with our maintenance guys at Overture about who come and they come and hang out in the command center. And I said, we're having this thing with the elevator. And they said, we have an old hydraulic elevator that with wooden walls, just like yours in the back. And I said, well, what do you do for it? And they said, we do it ourselves. And what you do is every 10 to 15 years, you change all the fittings and hoses. And they said it's not expensive. If you want to get like really into it, you also change the switches, which you have to do even less often. But in addition to our elevator whisperer that we already have, Overture has a maintenance staff that's competent with these things, and Overture loves us. and,
Cool.
you know, already underwrites us to a certain
On that
degree.
in-kind contribution.
Yeah.
Laura,
Might I suggest that you pass that along to Tom?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. One other quick thing I'll note is that there will be a power outage, and I'm forgetting the date. I don't have it
Wednesday,
notes.
November 1st.
Thanks.
November 1st, Wednesday morning, beginning at 9 a.m. during the already pre-recorded country program.
So we're going to have to replace some of the wiring at the station, basically, and that will require us to power down basically everything on Bedford Street in order to do this.
so there'll be no electricity in the building?
Yeah, we'll be running our programming from out at the transmitter, and so it won't affect what the listeners are hearing, but it certainly.
That's not my question. My question is,
Yeah.
will there be electricity on in the building?
I believe they're going to have to power down the entire building.
Okay, does that have any effect on the doors?
No, the doors actually, the locks are battery operated.
Okay, telephones, routers, will people
Telephones are an online system. They'll come back on automatically.
Okay,
I mean, and we powered down before, so
okay,
like, yeah, I mean, we're kind of hoping and trusting it'll be okay. Some
Okay.
things didn't come back okay the last time we did it, though.
it's like
Yeah.
broken acid, you know, some stuff just doesn't come back.
Well, and Tom's going to have to be racing around trying to power all the computers back up and get everything running again. He's prepared for it. Just
Okay.
so people are aware that there will be a power outage. It's something that's planned for.
Are we making announcements about that, or is that something nobody needs to?
We
they
want
need
it to
know?
be transparent to our listeners. I don't think it's going to be announced over the air.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Make sure no one's in the elevator.
Make sure no one's in the elevator.
Yeah.
Give Susan advance notice. Okay, we've heard from Doug, we've heard from Susan. Sybil's report, and particularly the matter of Kayla Cush's security concerns. There's not much we can do about life on the streets, but life inside. Dave suggested that once upon a time we had considered an online system. He gave me the name of it, Avignon or something, or Audialex or something, as opposed to having codes that lots of people know. What do people think about the need for us to upgrade the door security aspect of the building? Laura.
So I was on the security committee that was formed shortly after the shooting. And yeah, what we were talking about was basically a card operated system. Dave's system is phone. People would have to have smartphones. And I think it would be like a QR code that you'd hold up to the door. Or fobs that you would have to carry around that would actuate the door. However you do a system like that, it takes somebody who's like a full-time, someone has to administer it. Who's going to have access? You know, who did have access? If you're looking to review incidents and stuff, it's a lot of work. It's not an answer to everything. What we have has a lot of holes in it. So really what you need to do is to change the door combination more frequently than we really do. And that would tighten up the security to some extent. It might answer some of Kayla's questions.
Thank you. I don't know who, Dan, then Doug.
We use I administrate I'm the command center security officer at Overture, and I run the Vigilon software.
That's
Print the print all the badges and retire and issue and print special access. badges for groups as well as monitor the security camera system there. That's the software program that I am trained on to do that with. And with that, and I also have the guys, Aaron from OpenPath is the local technician that comes around. Like, I know all of those guys because they come into command center all of the time. I recommend Vigilon, not just because I know it, but because it's very good.
But do you think it is appropriate? I mean, Overture is Overture, WORT is WORT. Is Avalon an Avalon system what you would recommend that we can feasibly pay for and administer?
Yeah, I believe it scales. It's actually two, right? And so there's one, Vigilon. Vigilon does door path card access, and then it's married to a video software package through the same company called Alta Aware is the name of the video pack. And essentially if we wanted to, we could set up a little tiny command center at WORT that was staffed by, much like we have a certain number of signers to do the bank account, we could train up some staff and some of us, I suppose, and have our own de facto security force that could do, that could show that the station is secure. And that, as far as our pending, lawsuits are concerned, that would be something you could point at and say, we now have about as high a security access as, it's possible to get. I think there are only 2 doors. And so unless we wanted to put an internal reader on something like the newsroom, it would be, we're talking about a very small package where we'd need a reader for the back door and a reader for the front door, maybe a reader for the newsroom or people's offices, but we could use hard keys for that.
Well, how much do you think we're talking about? What would something like that cost?
The software is subscription. There are different tiers of subscriptions. I can't provide a figure. Okay. However, I do have access to the support. I'll be showing up at, I've got to arrive at 6:45 a.m. tomorrow and have access to the support center through the, I could contact support and delegate that to Dean, or I can get the information and then we can have whoever the appropriate person is from our group reach out and ask for ask for that information.
Okay, let's continue the discussion now. Doug, thank you for that. Dan, Doug, you're on mute.
Yeah, I am trying to unmute and lower my hand at the same time. What the report didn't say was that Sybil's been having further conversations with Kayla, and there was a lot of misconceptions about the security measures that have already been taken. The additions of front and back cameras, the additions of locking mechanisms to the interior studio doors. She can lock herself into the studio and it's not like somebody can just walk in on her. There's also the addition of the late night Bowler and Vaughn parking spaces that we have secured so that people don't have to park far away. And I know Sybil's been having conversations with her, and I don't know if she still has the same level of concern that she once had. And I think that might be something for a future report, because I don't know if this is really a dire emergency right now. She thought everybody had the same code, which isn't true. Every department has their own code. So when someone leaves, that department's code changes so that it updates that way. Plus, we've been talking on a staff level of doing new codes every 6 months for everyone, just so that it stays current and that old codes aren't out there floating around. So a lot of measures already have been taken, and I can't speak to how much this has alleviated Kayla's concerns because Sybil's the one that talked to her, and Sybil's in Door County until tomorrow. But if you like, I can ask Sybil to report further on where their conversations have led.
That'd be great. And also, if you could, I mean, we've got it on the tape, but if we had a written statement of what of all those things that you just talked about, I would like that in the minutes. Dan, can you make sure that you put in the minutes the substance of what Doug just said about what the new security additions have been? Because that's something that should be on the record. And he just listed, you're looking quizzical, he listed 3 or 4 or 5 little elements of the things that Kayla may not have been aware of and of security improvements. And I'd like those as part of the record that people can refer to and say, oh yeah, these are the things we did.
Do we want this under engineering?
No, but no, because it's in response to Kayla's concerns. So
I think Tom should report this because it's Tom, he has,
Support.
yeah, he's facilities. And
okay,
right now
okay.
it kind of falls under his
Okay.
purview.
Then Doug, can you ask Tom to include in his report for next month a statement of what the security upgrades have been?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Phil and then Laura. Phil, you're on mute. You're still on mute. There you go.
Sorry. Actually, my point was just whether anyone has actually reached out to Kayla to see if she still has concerns or not.
I think Doug indicated that would be part of Sybil's report next month, that she would update us on that. And Doug,
Yeah, as far as I know, it's an ongoing conversation because she brought it up in a staff meeting week before, or in last week's staff meeting.
okay. Thank you. But we'll confirm that, Phil. We'll make sure that happens. Laura?
I wanted to mention that we did have a lot of meetings back several years ago of this security committee. We did a lot of the research into various systems. The fact that we have only 2 doors is not the only factor. We would have to issue like over 300 fobs or security cards, which is why Dave really liked the idea of having an app on the phone. I mean, my point is, the bottom line is, if we really want to revisit all of this, we should really get a report from Dave. I would be happy to help him in writing that report about the work that we did several years ago, so we don't reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah. Well, let's see if there's, independent of the comments from Kayla as related by Sybil, does anybody have an independent sense that, we need to be working on this, other than the things that Doug already mentioned about changing the codes and so on? Is this an issue that people feel a need to reactivate a security committee to look into, or not?
Not at present. I would like to add, we added security cameras too since then.
Yeah. Okay. So to the extent that the comments from Kayla as related by Sybil have caused us to have this conversation, we leave it thinking things are okay, and we're going to get a report on what the status quo is and go on to other business. Consensus on that? Dean?
Maybe just one other additional question to Tom in his report to us, if there are any suggestions he might add to any further improvements other than where we at right now, what do we got, and indeed, does the staff think we need anything else?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else on the rest of Sybil's report? Okay, Shali's report. her new 6 p.m. news producer is really knocking it out of the park. Faye's really doing some good work and getting big numbers. So score 1 for Shali on the hire. Anybody have anything else on either Shali's report or Adrian's report? None.
Do we have an update on Cooper, or do we know what's going on with Cooper Talbot? Is she gone for forever?
It looks like she ran away for love. I mean, she posted a picture of looked like she's. I thought she was in Minnesota, but it was posted someplace else. But I think it's got to do with love. Doug, am I right on that? Do you know?
Yeah, she got married.
Yeah, there you go.
And she's in Michigan now.
Yeah.
Oh, have we sent a bat? Have we sent?
Well, she didn't invite us to the wedding.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Minnesota.
I don't know if we can send a congratulatory moment.
No, the last picture, Susan, is from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to the Twin Cities, but I was incorrect.
Okay. Oh, it was a feint.
Right.
Okay. Well, yes, we should certainly send a card. Anything else on any of the other reports before we get to the mural project? Let me think. Personnel committee met to review the status of the evaluation forms. And you all should have gotten a copy of the letter I sent to Nate Rasmussen at IBEW after that meeting, indicating that the committee does want to proceed with these evaluation forms and hopefully things can move in a timely manner. Doug, did you want to add anything or not on this point?
I think I should leave that today.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
But needless to say, the process is moving forward.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
And we also talked about the matter of the policies and bylaws has taken up the issue of the harassment policy and the harassment notification policy. And one of the issues is designation of an EEO officer as a recipient of complaints. So since that has potential personnel committee ramifications, we discussed that, whether or not that should rest with the president, that should rest with the personnel committee. We came to no conclusions, but we began the discussion on that point. Yeah, Laura, you're on mute. Laura, you're muted.
Are you through with personnel? This was going to be about DEI.
Anybody from any other personnel members want to add anything? Seeing none, then yes, I'm done with personnel.
So DEI had a failed meeting. I take full responsibility. I've got to learn to. I did contact Tom about Zoom, and hopefully this will be rectified this coming month. But it does spill over. The harassment policy was brought up before the DEI committee, and I'm glad to say that it really is not the purview of DEI to handle complaints. We don't have any mechanism for that, and it's not in our charter. So Dan and I had a good conversation. I apologize to the other members who tried to get into the meeting but couldn't. We will have a better meeting this coming month.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other committee or work group reports to come, Dan?
Oh, I want to first talk a little bit about DEI. I did like the terminology of ombudsman, which is something that I was unfamiliar with and is sort of similar to, might be terminology that the personnel committee might embrace in regards to like an EEO officer type role. And that also I had fun in DEI. It was good. It was a good time. I liked it.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. In elections committee, we had an email exchange directly before this meeting, in which Doug was able to illuminate a timeline for us that I think is worth sharing. We want to consider the applicant's window open as of November 1st, and that in between December 7th and January 7th, we would
Vote.
Prepare ourselves to vote at that upcoming board meeting in January.
No, we don't vote, Dan. The general membership does.
Or the
And they do it by email or paper ballot.
Doug,
We
you-
would,
You knew.
we would seat them at the January meeting. And that also puts some timeliness on my communication or somebody's communication with Rebecca, because if she's going to not serve, we need to know in time to have that position on this ballot as well. So,
Correct.
okay, I will do that. Anybody, okay, the mural project, anybody want to address the mural project?
I can speak to that as a member of the
Okay,
mural
thank you,
project.
Phil.
Essentially that we are preparing to include information in the volunteer newsletter that will be going out at the end of this month, simply announcing it to WORT volunteers and radio hosts and staff, because we felt that it was important to inform the WORT community of that before making more general public announcements. Along with that, we are in the process of preparing an application to the city's facade improvement grant, which will provide, I believe, up to $40,000 in matching funds. I don't have the application right in front of me. As I think most of you know, in order for a mural to be painted, there are considerable tuck pointing, window replacement or repair, and a few other things that need to take place before any paint can be applied to the outside of the building or removed. I'm trying to think what else has been under discussion. One of the next steps that I believe is also underway is the process of putting together an RFP to send out to local artists to essentially, I think we are planning a two-stage process in which applicants will submit basically just interest in putting their name forward and give one or two examples of their work and a brief summary of their vision statement. And then from there, the mural work group will narrow that down to a few finalists who we will ask to provide more in-depth design proposal and an actual rough sketch or artistic vision for what the mural would look like. And somewhere between those two stages, we are exploring a variety of ways to gather feedback from the work community on what they might like to see. But at the end of the day, I think the feeling is that you have to sort of trust the artist or artistic team to have a vision that they feel strongly about, and that good results don't come from a sort of committee in terms of artwork. And that's also Jonathan Cooper and Pat Sable took the lead on developing a letter to the Bassett neighborhood and other local businesses that they plan to circulate, which I believe was included with the information Pat had sent to the board.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, who is the signatory on things like applications to the city for grants?
That is an excellent question. My assumption, having been a grant writer, is that it will be you as president of the board. There are also a few other particular details that I'm going to need to iron out going forward. I know I was looking at one grant application and it asked if WORT had a SAM number, which is a federal identifier that is distinct from the IRS tax exempt number. And I spoke to both Susan and former president Dave, and neither of them were familiar with WORT ever having applied for a SAM number.
Okay.
It's not a huge barrier. I have done that in the past. It's not something that happens. You don't submit an application and get a number 10 minutes later. It usually takes anywhere from 10 days or longer in some cases.
Yeah. Susan, you're on mute, but you wanted to get in, answer this.
I just wanted to say that the mural committee, I've been working with them. That letter is actually my letter that I wrote. There was a letter written, but it was largely a long page of the history of WORT and was not really a fundraising letter. So they've drawn me in. Jonathan Cooper has asked me to help him with fundraising because he's going to be more of the fundraising arm. So I didn't plan on being as actively involved, but I am much more involved with that committee now, and we are working out. And I think Doug, that they're approaching you. They just want to make sure that they're not getting into anything that would interfere with our regular fundraising. So
we vetted the list with both Susan and I.
Right, they now want to ask you about like doing sponsorships so that the businesses that they are approaching, for instance, could have a big sign while we're working on things that say, you know, not on the building itself, but just a separate sign like you see in front of construction sites. And it would say that this is, you know, through the support of Echo Tap or this place or that place. So they've got a lot of ideas going on, but Doug, they did want to see if you had ideas for them for sponsorship.
Well, how concerned are either you, Susan, or Doug about this eating into our ongoing operational needs? I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not thrilled to hear that you now are given responsibilities for dealing with something that was not part of the plan for you to have to deal with, knowing how critical you are to our overall financial health and how, you know, I don't want you more fully overstressed than you already are. And I'm a little uneasy about you having been given this additional responsibility.
I am going back to the fundraising group and asking if any of them have the time to devote to the mural group, because it is a stretch for me. I don't mind. I didn't mind being sent the original fundraising letter and just editing it. That took like an hour to make it into a fundraising letter. instead of what it was. But it is a struggle for a group of people that don't really have. I mean, I think they have someone that works on grants, but there is nobody on there that is a fundraiser that's on that mural group.
Okay, well,
So it is a problem that I think that they're going to need to solve one way or another. And I had said I'll edit anything. I don't mind editing stuff, but being more involved with their direction of like, how do we do this? How do we go to this? I'm getting a lot of questions, and I'm like, this, I have a lot of things to try and make up for the shortfalls before the end of the year, and this wasn't on my radar.
I welcome any other board members' comments, but you've got your job, and it is not the mural.
I understand.
Is my attitude on this. If
Okay.
anybody else wants to comment on that, they can. Doug, what thoughts do you have about the implications for your department of the mural project?
Well, they've been really good about showing me a list of businesses that they want to tap, and I don't really have any concerns with it tapping into underwriting or current event sponsors.
Okay.
Because they're really staying within the area, because those are the businesses that want to see a nice, pretty mural on our building because it reflects on their building, and it is like Echo Tap, Buller and Vaughn, Findorf, these are, even GHC, I think they should tap. They're right around the corner, so I think these are great ideas for businesses as opposed to tapping into existing revenue streams that are coming from businesses already. There hasn't been any overlap that I've seen.
Okay, that's very good to hear. Phil, I have a suggestion. Tap the Madison Development Corporation, whose offices are 550 West Washington, on whose board I've sat for 40 years. So tap them. I don't know what the ask is, but double it. Okay. But as to murals, the thing on Bayview, I hope you've all seen. I sent around an image of the mural on Bayview, and if we have anything even close to that, it is going to be very, very cool. Notwithstanding my concerns about how we're going to raise the money. Anybody have anything else on the mural project? Yeah, Dean.
Yeah, just I think Susan told us what she said she was comfortable with.
Yeah.
Editing a letter, looking at it, and and then sending it back. And I think that's what both staff members should limit themselves to comfortable things like that, nothing else.
Yeah.
The committee so far has done a lot of good stuff. And I think that they can resolve how to find someone to help them fundraise once they know that they can't tap into us beyond a few edited letter, little supporting comments, and minimal time involved. That's good enough. Let that committee solve that problem. They can do it. They're good people over there.
Patrick, I think the sense of the board is that on substance, the committee is doing real well, but you need to find someone to serve on it who's got some fundraising background. But the rest of the stuff looks really good.
Yeah.
Is that the consensus of the board? But thank you for that report. Anything else to come before I do? Does anybody feel a need or desire to talk about a board staff retreat, or put that off to a meeting in which we've actually thought about it and have something in front of us to discuss?
I guess my question would be, is this a personnel committee discussion? Like, in other words, who's going to develop? I would prefer that we don't all have the conversation. I'd like a developed proposal, but the question is, who's going to develop it?
I think it's either personnel or exec. I think it's probably an executive committee.
Okay, that's fine by me. Just as long as somebody does it.
Yeah. It's either personnel or exec, but you're right. I don't want to do committee work on the floor. Absolutely. Yeah, so we'll figure that out. Okay.
But you will call a meeting this month of the exec committee to work on this?
to at least start talking about it, yeah.
See that.
Okay, so Laura, you think it should go to exec rather, exec, you think go to exec?
I just want to make sure the conversation gets started. Whatever your decision is on that, exec committee sounds,
They'll do it exec, well, it says, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Okay, anybody have anything else on anything else? I have nothing to go into closed session on, so, anybody have anything else on anything else?
Just another shout out for both Stuart and I will be at the library Friday, and I'll be introducing Stuart, who will be then having a discussion with this wonderful author. And there will be WRT shout outs involved in this. So 4:30 Friday at the library, if you want to hear a really good conversation, come and join us.
There's a woman who is part of the white cadre of the Black Panther Party, was in Racine, then moved to Chicago, organized Uptown Chicago, and then got elected to the Chicago City Council, served 25 years on the Chicago City Council, and was the deciding 26th vote for Harold Washington's program prior to his death. There's a woman who was like one of the crowd, who had no leadership role whatsoever in Madison in the 60s, was in Dow, was in the Commerce Building, 54 years ago today. And
Really?
nobody ever heard of her. And she gets elected to the Chicago City Council and serves 25 years. She had been an anonymous soldier in the 60s and becomes a star in the 80s and 90s and aughts. There's an object lesson there.
Yeah, all 5'3" of her.
Yeah. Very interesting story. Part of the white cadre, the Black Panther Party. A graduate of the University of Wisconsin. Okay, if nobody has anything else, I thought this was a pleasant 95 minutes. So thank you all for a good board meeting, and
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn. Okay, and come out and see us on Friday. Okay.
The first and second, is it Stu's motion?
Consensus. We're adjourning by consensus.
All right.
So long, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Good night.
bye.